Hi, I'm Richard with Truck Policy. Today I want to talk about diesel prices jumping again and what that means for owner operators and small fleets. This matters because when fuel moves up fast, it can eat through your week just as fast. And even when freight starts to look a little better. Fuel is back in the spotlight, and for many owner operators, that pressure shows up right away. When diesel gets above $5 a gallon, the math changes fast. You can run more miles, book a few better loads, and still end up wondering where the money went. That is what makes this kind of market so frustrating. The truck is moving, the work is getting done, but the take home pay does not always follow. That is the real story here. Some operators are seeing a little more movement than they were earlier this year, and in some lanes, signs indicate freight is picking up. On the surface, that sounds like a break, but with higher fuel costs all of a sudden, that can wipe out those gains before they even make it to your pocket. Fuel is one of the fastest expenses to hit your business. The minute the pump price goes up, every load costs more to run. There's no delay, there's no grace period, the increase shows up right now. And fuel is only part of it. Insurance is still high. I mean, we see that every day. Repairs still hurt, parts are expensive, equipment costs have not really eased up much either. So even though diesel gets the most attention because you feel it every day, it is really part of a bigger cost problem. That is why just running harder is not always the answer. More work does not automatically mean more profit. For drivers and small fleets, this is a good reminder that gross revenue and actual profit are two very different things. A stronger week on miles does not necessarily mean a stronger week on money. Once you add fuel, tolls, deadhead, maintenance, wear on the truck, a load that looked decent that can turn into something that barely moves the needle. In some cases, it can do more damage than good. So that is where decision making gets more important. In a high cost market, weak freight becomes even more dangerous. It is easy to feel like you need to keep the wheels turning no matter what. But cheap loads with expensive diesel can keep you busy in the business. You are working, you're burning fuel, you're adding miles, taking on wear and tear, but not really building anything on the back end. So what's next? Small fleets feel this too, sometimes even faster. When you have multiple trucks fueling at elevated prices, even a modest jump at the pump adds up in a hurry. That can tighten up cash flow, delay repairs, and make it harder to stay ahead on bills. So the big takeaway is simple. Busy does not always mean better, and in a market like this, smart operations matter just as much as hard work. That starts with knowing your cost per mile, not guessing, not using old numbers from 6 months ago. You need current numbers that reflect today's fuel, insurance, maintenance, permits, and truck payments. When your numbers are outdated, your decisions will be off too. It all means paying closer attention to fuel stops. Where you buy fuel matters a lot more when prices are this high. A few cents a gallon may not sound like much in the moment, but across a week or a month, that really adds up. That the same goes for idle time. Idling burns money without moving the truck, so cutting unnecessary idle time can make a real difference. Load selection matters too. A load that keeps moving you is not always a load that makes money. You have to look harder at the fuel line. Rate per mile is part of it, but so are tolls, fuel burn, traffic, and deadhead. In this kind of market, being pickier is not being lazy. It's just protecting your margin. Driving style plays a role as well. Hard accelerations, speeding, rough braking all work against fuel economy. A slower pace can help you hold on to more of what you make. Maintenance matters for the same reason. Tire pressure, filters, alignment, small engine issues can all chip away at the fuel economy, mile after mile. Staying ahead of that is cheaper than letting those problems drag your profits down every day. And one of the biggest things drivers can do is track weekly profit, not just gross revenue. Gross can look pretty good on paper, while profit stays weak. You need to know what is actually left after the fuel bill and everything else gets paid, see how the business is really doing. Gross revenue and profit is different across the board. This is also a good time to build a cushion where you can. Stronger weeks will not always last, and fuel can move again fast. Even a small reserve can help when prices spike, repairs come up, or freight softens back down. Along with that, reviewing routes, cutting empty miles matters. Reviewing routes and cutting empty miles matters more than ever. Long deadhead miles can really hurt in this high fuel market. The main point in all of this is to stay honest with the numbers. Diesel can rise fast, and when it does, it can erase gains from better miles just as fast. For owner-operators, the goal right now is not just stay moving, it is to make sure work is still worth doing. Just booking a load just to get a load isn't always the best scenario. You guys stay safe out there, make money, and keep on moving.